Good morning to all of you who are here, to those who are joining us at home by live streaming. Welcome to our Good Friday service here at Varsity Acres Presbyterian Church. This is going to be a little bit of an atypical service today. It is a reflective service with words, with music. We are going to be walking through what is sometimes called the 7 last sayings or the 7 last words from the cross. And we're very fortunate today to have with us the Bridgeland Quartet, who will be providing music for the service throughout. And they are Eva and Angela, Andrea, and Maria. We're very pleased that you're here with us today. Of course, we have a number of readers who are helping out, and I'd like to thank them. Joan, Marilyn, Heather, Sonia, and Dillis will be participating in our service. Today we are going to be listening to the music of Dmitri Shostakovich as a main feature of our service. And of course, I also need to thank Glenn and Ralph, who will be in our tech booth in what is a very dynamic service. So we appreciate all of your work upstairs, Glenn and Ralph. So we are here on Good Friday, a day which is unusual for many of us, a day which can leave us feeling disquieted and discomforted. But I invite you now to still your hearts, to quiet your thoughts, as we enter into the events of that day 2,000 years ago. Let us worship God.
Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. A great number of the people followed him, and among them were women who were beating their breasts and wailing for him. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For the days are surely coming when they will say, 'Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' Then they will begin to say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For if they do this when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry?"
We are going to be singing 3 times throughout the service along to the quartet. So you will find the words on the screen. We're going to sing verses 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Were You There? Please join us at home. And please remain seated during the singing. It's fine today. This is a reflective service. We'll remain seated and we'll sing along with the quartet.
When they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they cast lots to divide his clothing.
One of the criminals who were hanged there kept deriding him and saying, "Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly, for we are getting what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus replied, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise."
Meanwhile, standing near the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." And then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his own home.
When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. At 3:00, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
After this, when Jesus knew that all was now finished, he said, "In order to fulfill the scripture, I am thirsty." A jar full of sour wine was standing there. So they put a sponge full of the wine on a branch of hyssop and held it to his mouth. When Jesus had received the wine, he said, "It is finished." Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit.
Then Jesus, crying with a loud voice, said, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." We're going to sing a hymn that may not be familiar to you, but it has a simple melody. The quartet is going to play through it twice, once on the violin and then together, and we'll join in on the third time. It's called "The Love That Clothes Itself in Light." Well, this is a strange day, and it's a day that so often leaves us with unsettled feelings. It feels like the end of the story as we have journeyed with Jesus, and it doesn't seem like a very good end. It's strange in so many ways. You know, Jesus gathered around himself a lot of folks who were a little bit rough and ready, a little rough around the edges, those male disciples that Jesus had gathered around him. There was Peter the rock. There was James and John, the sons of thunder. There was Simon the zealot. And on this day, they were all gone. The rock had crumbled. The sons of thunder were silent. The zealot was not so zealous. You may have noticed something interesting about the service today. You may have noticed how many women were a part of our service today. Because on that day, those were the people who were left with Jesus. After those rough and ready disciples had run away and were in hiding, had denied and decried, and were left bewildered, so many of the women who followed Jesus, strong women, were there at the cross, at the grave, standing there in public view, associating themselves with this dangerous person, these strong women, many of whom were in their own rights disciples, apostles, whose names we don't know, whose stories we don't know because they've been erased by a patriarchal church. But it was women who were with Jesus in his final hours. It's a disturbing day and a strange day in so many ways because of the blood and the gore and because of the cross. And you know, we play on this sometimes. We feel ourselves emotionally stirred up and we can feel ourselves stirred up sometimes for the wrong reasons. At its best, sometimes Good Friday has left me feeling emotionally manipulated. And at its worst, it's left me feeling spiritually manipulated. Because we wallow in that cross and in the blood and in the gore, and we say it's our fault, it's our fault, it's our fault, and we walk out of these services saying, I'm the reason that Jesus is up there on that cross. And this day does nothing but fill the followers of Jesus with shame and self-loathing, which is not what it's supposed to be about. Which is not what it is supposed to be about. How strange we've looked in the last few weeks that God would demand a death in order to be satisfied, in order to love us. I think that's a crock. And it's time that we actually understand the cross in a different way. But so often the words and the language that we hear, they remind us of a certain kind of understanding of sinfulness, and we feel that responsibility, and it just heaps up the shame on top of us. But I'm going to tell you, if there is a sin to be addressed here on Good Friday, it is the sin of how this profound event has been distorted. The truth is that on this day, that cross is a symbol of how much we are loved and beloved. It is a symbol, more importantly, of the power of love, and in a belief in the power of love, even to the end, even against all opposition, even against unsurmountable odds. It is a story about love, taking on the evil of the world, the distortions that we build up through our hurt and our woundedness and our confusion. It is about love taking on greed and power and misogyny and homophobia and racism and prejudice and violence, and being met with violence of the most extreme nature. And yet on this day, love takes on all of that, takes it in, and somehow transforms it. I've come to see it almost as a kind of a cosmic working of Christ reconciling all the parts that have gone astray, all of the parts that have been distorted, all of the parts that have taken on a life of their own and grown into what we call evil, of bringing all that back into a source that is within him, that he is so powerfully connected to, and allowing that source to transmute and transform everything in this world back to its original place. In the loving center of the divine creator of all people. This is a day about love in a most powerful way, taking on everything that is wrong with the world, standing in the face of power and saying, love will triumph, even though it seems on this day that love has failed. That is what Jesus is doing on that cross. There is a hymn that we sing, were the whole realm of nature mine, that were an offering far too small, love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. But not as some kind of paying back for what we've done wrong, not as something coming out of our shame and our guilt and our emotional disturbance over the cross, but coming out of the fact that we too, as followers of Jesus, are called to this great work of love. We are called to it because it is our highest and truest self. We are called to it because it is what human beings were made for. And we are called to live out this love, to live it out in our relationships, to live it out against prejudice, against violence, against racism, against misogyny, against homophobia, against those who say that person is of a different religion, so they can't possibly be connected to God, against power, against profit, against greed. This is why Jesus ended up on that cross. And this is what we are called to. But we are called to a great work of love. It may be something small in your life. It may be that word that you need to share with somebody. It may be a relationship that you need to heal. Or you may be called to even greater things. You may be called, as many have throughout the history of humanity, many of all religions, to even lay down your life for love. But maybe not. Whatever you are called for, you are called to and in love, because it is what we were made for. It is how we were created, and it is that to which we shall return. And the cross is what happens when love that is that sure of its victory, when love that is absolutely set on reconciling this world comes up against power in this world and seems to be defeated. So often in our lives, our efforts in love seem to be defeated. But love is never defeated, because on this day, love has been completed. And what is not apparent will be made apparent. And though we see in shadows, we will see in the full sunlight. This day is not an ending. It is a beginning of a new world, a new humanity, of new human beings. Go from this day knowing that you walk in the power of love, a love so powerful that it would take on even death itself.
When evening had come, and since it was the day of preparation, that is, the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, a respected member of the council, who was also himself waiting expectantly for the kingdom of God, went boldly to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate wondered if he were already dead, and summoning the centurion, he asked him whether he had been dead for some time. When he learned from the centurion that he was dead, he granted the body to Joseph. Then Joseph bought a linen cloth, and taking down the body, wrapped it in the linen cloth, and laid it in a tomb that had been hewn out of the rock. He then rolled a stone against the door of the tomb.
We are going to conclude our service today singing When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. We'll sing verses 1, 3, and 4, but you'll find the words on the screen, and please join us at home as we sing with the quartet, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. I would invite you to come and join us on Easter Sunday morning at our 10 o'clock service. Go now from this place with peace and go in love.